Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly early comic review video. I'm
I'm
Jason.
Andy.
I'm here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Every Monday after the comics have been delivered to our shop, we bag them, we board them, then we divide them up. We read the ones we think most people want to hear about, and we give what we call our spoiler light reviews. So we're going to tell you sort of collectible reasons you might want these, like first appearances. This week we actually counted up how many firsts we have in our books. I think there are 17 first appearances we'll go over throughout the course of this show. More than that, we like to go into a lot of issue number ones to tell you what these books are about, what the art is like. So that way, when you walk into your comic shop, whatever day you go there, you're not overwhelmed with the 30 to 40 new books that are there.
hmm
You know which ones sound better to you than merely just reading their solicitation notes. So I believe today we're going to go over 23 books. You can see the first few out in front of us. We're going to show off their variants and a lot of the incentives for them as well.
I feel like we're getting back to kind of a norm
With the amount
after
of
the
books coming
holidays.
out,
Yeah.
I agree. So what are you going to start with? Because you got a lot more first appearances than me.
Yeah, I was telling you, I was like, well, this book had six, this one had four, so I have a lot. One that doesn't, but a book I've been very excited to talk about is Lazarus Planet Alpha. So I am a really big DC fan, and I love all of the smaller characters, and that's what I love that Mark Waid has done with this event. And it looks like a lot of the DC universe going forward. Everybody loves Batman, but you can get a little bit of Batman fatigue. So if you've been reading some of the lead up to this in uh, Batman Superman World's Finest or Batman versus Robin, you'll know that Batman is slightly out of commission. He's there, but he's definitely not at the top of his game. When we find him in here, he is currently laid over inside of a plane as people are trying to treat him. So previously, we got the big eruption of the Lazarus volcano because the villain King Firebolt showed up. The funny thing about this is people may be like, "Who's King Firebolt?" He's the father of Neza the demon that's been kind of a villain through a lot of this story leading up to here. But I feel like he's also not that big of a deal. It's more of what he has caused rather than him being the big thing. Because this is a big kickoff to, let's say, the DC universe for the next year,
Yeah,
probably.
it's definitely setting up a lot of their year.
Yeah, so in this, you've got Robin puts out the call after this Lazarus resin is raining from the sky. There's tornadoes and storms all across the world that are kind of infused with magic and are changing things. Robin calls for all the heroes that can show up. Funny enough, right before this, the Justice League disbanded. Really bad time for them to do that. So who do we get showing up? We have Zatanna, Blue Beetle, Supergirl, Power Girl, Blue Devil, Monkey Prince, uh, Shazam, the Mary Marvel version, and Cyborg. So you've got a very interesting melting pot of characters that you don't always see interact. Especially, you throw Blue Devil in there, and it's like, well, who have we seen with him recently? But that's what makes it so fun, which I love Mark Waid's doing with this, is some other characters get to take the spotlight, and you see how they would deal with this. So we have Robin giving all the instructions, what kind of missions they need to go on to reverse all of this. But the big part about this issue is it's the kickoff for all the big stuff. So you have a part that's a map, and it's going to show you different locations and where some of these one shots coming up are going to take place. And also, they promise that characters will get changed, or characters who don't have powers will get powers, and characters that have powers they may get a boost or it changes somewhat. And that is also played out in here on the last page, where you see a very, very key DC character gets a major overhaul. Now, will it last a long time? Probably not, but it's going to make for some fun stories going forward. So this is a oversized issue. I don't want to give away a lot of the really fun stuff, but it's full of action, full of characters. It's fun. It's lighthearted, but with scary things going on. It's everything you want out of a big event book, and it is just the kickoff to this Lazarus planet that's going to be going on for probably about a month or so. through some of the DC books and some of its own titles. So highly, highly recommend Lazarus Planet Alpha. I just think it's a great way to get familiar with some new characters that you may not know about. Maybe find some new favorite characters. And also the art is done by Frederici, which, if you know his style, very interesting to see on a superhero book. You've got very detailed versions of characters that you don't always see kind of lifelike. So first off, we have the Matina cover with Poison Ivy. And all these are very key characters in the story. We've got the Zerdy variant with Monkey Prince and Neza. There's also a backup story in this about Monkey Prince and what is his tie to this demon, because it's kind of more personal than we originally knew. We have this one, which is really interesting. This is the trading card variant that has some covers of previous issues as punch out trading cards, which is very interesting. They've done this with a couple of books before.
So is it done in a way where you can easily punch them out, or is it like you got to cut these
No,
things?
I believe it looks like it's perforated.
Okay.
We have the Frederici variant, so you definitely see there. As dark as that looks, it's kind of what the interior looks like, but maybe not as dark. We've got there's a lot of variants for this. We've got the Corona variant. Damian Wayne definitely is the kind of leader in this. Very cool to see. Batman even kind of turned the reins over to him to be in charge. And we have the Manahini variant, where you can see that rain coming down and some of the characters are changing. So that is really fun. And then lastly, we have the 1 in 25 Jiang variant that we're selling to our customers for $15 with Cyborg.
Yeah, DC, they did a lot of publicity for this event. They made us retailers have to order several things before the event even started, which is
Yeah.
always tough to do. And I know a lot of people have asked us questions about what is this event? What's going to be cool about it? And I think what's going to happen is people are going to read it, like you, like
Yeah.
early readers are going to read it and be like, oh, power changes and power switches and people gain upgrades. That stuff is really awesome,
Yeah.
And I don't think people really understand until they start reading it
Yeah.
how cool it's going to
It
be.
comes with my very high recommendation. It definitely feels fresh and fun, but still like high stakes, all of that.
So my first book is a Marvel book. It's a new miniseries called Avengers: War Across Time. So you can already see on this. This is a very classic Avengers team, which is interesting because this book takes place after Avengers number 11. We're talking
Oh, wow.
original series Avengers number 11 from 1964.
So Captain America's only been on the team for a couple of issues.
Correct. Yep. And Hulk's only been gone for
Oh,
so
yeah.
many issues as well. This is done by former editor DC Paul Levitz. It's his first work at Marvel, I believe, and the art is done by Alan Davis. So if you're looking for just sort of a classic comic to read, this is it. It's a 5-issue miniseries, and it reads very much like classic comics. So what had happened in issue number 11 of Avengers is they went up against Kang, who had like a Spider-Man robot they had to fight. And issue 11 of Avengers is the first time the Avengers meet Peter Parker. Spider-Man
Okay.
was in it. Well, that all continues. I mean, they literally have just got back from this, and it's like funny to read something you open. It's like, oh, they just got back from something in 1964. But it was really easy and really cool to read it. It's sort of a double-sized issue at $5.99. The main threat is that Kang basically, like, if you read Avengers 11, Kang is kind of done.
Yeah.
In this, he's not. In this, he's like, okay, well, they beat my spider guy. Well, I've only just begun. His new plan has to do with Hulk. So the second half of this is Hulk fighting the Avengers, and I mean one at a time, two at a time, just a huge fight with Hulk. And he's that old style Hulk where he talks in the stunted sort of
Yeah.
speech, and he is evil. Like he's more evil than the Hulk would be because Kang has done something here. You'll have to read, see what happens. Um, but a lot of good fights, a lot of good classic comic dialogue, and now the Avengers plan on taking the fight to Kang in the ongoing
Mhm.
issues of this 5-issue miniseries. So that is your premise there. If you're looking for just a real solid, classic feeling comic, this is the one I would get. That's how the writing style is. That's how the art is. As far as variants, I would just have the one variant. This is the Davis variant, of course, is your interior artist. So this is a very good representation of the interior art. And that's what's going on in a lot of it too.
For people who say they miss just like the classic, just big old fights and everything, it's like Marvel's like, oh, here you go.
And it's more Kang, and Peter Parker is back in it again,
That's
at
cool.
least a little bit. A few other characters. Aunt May's in it a little, you know.
Okay, my next one is one of the weirdest issues of Spider-Man I've read in a while, and I did read that issue a while back with the talking sandwiches, which I will never forget. So this is Amazing Spider-Man number 17. This is still part of the Dark Web story by Zeb Wells, and the art is by Ed McGuinness. This cover is done by Ramita Jr. So in this, I feel like every one of the Dark Web things leading up to probably this issue has been um, pre-Limbo. We know from the solicitations and the story that Chasm and Goblin Queen are sending a lot of people to Limbo to kind of trap them there or whatever. But all the issues right before this have just led to that point where they just get thrown in there. Now we see what is going on there, and it is wild. So Limbo is full of these demons, and for some, he gives his reason. Chasm has made this little part that has Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson into a kind of hellish version of their real lives, uh, working at the Daily Bugle and having like all their employees and everything. So in this, Peter Parker is he's just dressed like regular, almost like 60s Peter Parker. He's got a little sweater vest on, and Jameson is having to uh, command all these demons around to go find pictures of Spider-Man and all this stuff. So it's a very odd world. The funny part about this is, and actually plays later, is the demons can never really remember what people's names are, so they call them really like messed up backwards versions of things. That's going to play a big part later in this. But it's really fun. You've got some of the demons who are like, Jameson is kind of freaking out, and they're like, "No, you're supposed to yell at us and tell us to go take pictures and go get this scoops and stuff." He's like, "Oh, okay." Very funny, very just like dark but lighthearted. Um, Forrest Peter Parker this entire time he runs into Chasm, and Chasm's like, "Hey, I need you to do this thing. This is basically going to reverse and make Ben Riley the have his memories back and all of that." And of course, Peter Parker's like, "No," and he's like, "Well, until you do that, you're trapped here." So he's going to have to continue to live out this thing. Well, what the big thing in this is to make this feel more like home for Peter Parker. They are creating their own Sinister Six. This is where the first appearances come in. Uh, so Chasm, they have some way of turning these like little simpleton demons, just kind of the little scrawny ones, into these big monsters. And he has created his own Insidious Six, which are uh, kind of based on they don't quite understand what the real versions of these characters are. So they've got really weird, messed up names. So we have Dr. Octoball. Kind of looks like a mix of like a beholder from D&D and Doc Ock. We've got the Grave Goblin, who is actually a super cool design, and I hope we see him past the storyline. Who rides instead of on a glider on a tombstone.
Well, you know, Marvel loves their goblin characters.
Yes, we've got Triceratops, which is the rhino type character. We have Kraken the Hunter, who is like Craven, but also like a tentacle monster. We have Lazaro, and we have Gorpion. So this is the Insidious Six, which is great. But the other thing is there is another little demon who says, "Oh, if you have all these, I want to be Spider-Man." He actually calls him Parker Man. And they're like, no, we don't need a hero. He's out there. We just need all these villains. Well, it's not really a spoiler, but someone makes this little guy an offer to be exactly what he wants to be. And that's where we get another big first appearance. And I will show you because it is actually on a variant cover. So the first of the variant covers, we've got this one by Ed McGuinness. You can kind of see, but it's got some designs of some of those Insidious Six. There's Kraken the Hunter and some of those.
Yeah, it's got like a Cthulhu sort of face on him with the tentacles.
We've got this one, which don't be confused. This is Amazing Spider-Man, but everything about it doesn't say that. This is the Disney 100 variants. These are ones I definitely think you should jump on. Just that mashup of Disney and Marvel is always hot.
The last one was big.
Yeah, so this is homage, of course, of Avengers #4. We've got this Ramita Jr. homage cover, another great one. And here's where I guess if you don't want like super spoilers, don't look at this cover, but we do have the first appearance, and I guess this will be the first cover appearance on this 1 in 25 McGuinness variant. We're selling for $20. Is Rek-rap. That is our new Spider-Man character called Rek-rap. And why is he called that? It's Parker spelled backwards.
Okay.
Because they basically tell him you need to do the opposite, and he says, "Oh, instead of Parker, then I'll be Rek-rap." That's how weird and goofy this is. But this is his first appearance. He's got a full page that shows him off, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So, kind of a big issue of Amazing Spider-Man this week. If you are into those like weird versions of known characters.
But not long ago, Peter Palmer. Now we get Rek-rap.
Yes, the whole new pantheon of weird ones.
Okay, so my next book is a pretty cool one. It is Black Cloak, a brand new Image ongoing series from writer Kelly Thompson and artist Meredith McLaren. Okay, so not a lot you can tell by the cover. You know, it looks like somebody under the water, uh, partially naked. It looks like they're not doing well. You know, it looks like they're struggling to swim. This is not an underwater book, okay? It starts with somebody in the water, and you see there's something nefarious, some nefarious creatures there. But really, what this is a this is a kingdom, okay? And this kingdom just has finished this long war where they defeated evil, and that's all sort of in the past now. Now the problem is, now that the kingdom has peace, there's a lot of infighting amongst the people in the kingdom. It's sort of one of those things that when you don't have a common enemy unifying a group of people, then a lot of like bad tendencies arise. Well, this story, it's got a lot of the saga charm to it. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
We have characters who have sort of like the art style is a little bit like animated looking to me, where it has thick lines, not too many features, like features that they intend to do real well, but everything else is left like pretty smooth. Everybody is humanoid, but a lot of mixes with animals. Some people have like cloven legs, some will have like goat horns. There's also magic in this world. Now, the title Black Cloak. The Black Cloak is their version of a police officer, okay, for the kingdom. And our main character is a Black Cloak. A lot of people don't really like them because, you know, they're officials and they'll bust you and all that. Well, this starts with a murder, and it's up to the Black Cloak to solve the murder. And there's two sort of big things with this murder. One is it happens to be her ex fiance. Secondly, he is sort of in line to become the head of the throne one day. So this is a pretty major murder, whoever did this. And let's just say that's maybe just the first murder that happens in this. This is a double-sized issue, so you get a lot of story, a lot of meeting characters, and a whole lot of world building. It feels like they spent a lot of time on this world, and that's another reason, you know, I would compare it. It has that saga charm to it. So if you like those sorts of books, I think this is one worth picking up, especially because it's just sort of double issue. A lot of times when I read a comic, I'm like, that's pretty cool, but I need more. This one, there is a lot to it. I mean, I almost felt like I was reading a graphic novel. Not that it's over dialogue heavy, but there's a lot. They packed it into this issue. So that's why I put it as the second book I wanted to review today. Black Cloak, I think, is one that for sure, the right people who like that indie stuff are really
I was
gonna
about to
like it.
say that art style. There's gonna be some people that really appeals to.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
gonna see that and immediately know, okay, I like
And it
this.
has magic. It's not sci-fi opera though. It's
Yeah,
definitely different. But I mean, I can't help but compare it that way. So we have some variant covers. Here is the DeCall variant. I mean, look at that style.
yeah.
Then here is the Keith Momoko variant. Of course, all these are our main character. And then here is the 1 in 10 Bill Ulysse variant. We're selling to our customers for $10.
Okay, next up for me is a pretty big one. This is Mark Miller and Jorge Jimenez, Nemesis Reloaded. So, if you're not familiar with Nemesis, it came out uh, kind of back. There's an intro in this where they talk to Mark Miller and he kind of tells you about this. I didn't realize it came out during the like height of Kick-Ass. So uh, it's amazing that it's like, oh, he had this huge success. Most people ride that. He's like, no, I'm gonna keep plugging stuff in there. It originally came out with him writing and Steve McNiven doing the art. And it was only 4 issues long. I remember it being way more than that, but it made an impact and it sold really, really well back then. But of course, he's been very busy, had a lot of stuff going on. It's interesting to note in here. I was telling Jason that he actually says that he has made more money off of those 4 issues of Nemesis than him and Steve McNiven did off of doing Civil War for Marvel, which that shows you when you say, well, why would you leave doing a big project to do an indie book? Because that's actually where you make the most money. But this he actually talks about this as a soft reboot. So if you haven't read that previous one, this is completely new reader friendly. He talks about every so often you can kind of what happened. Like you've got that original series, and this one it can be in the same continuity. It can be its own thing. It's not really going to reference that a whole lot. It's just new reader friendly, same character, just like Superman has had multiple iterations that kind of updates him with the times. That's what this is. Now, the big warning about this is dark and violent, uh, like no else. I mean, there's some out there that are even crazier, but this is definitely not for the squeamish. So they describe this character Nemesis as what if the Batman was Joker, or what if the Joker was Batman? Um, he's a very just like revels in the horrible things he does, and it's hard to tell. Does he ever do anything for like good? Like he does stuff, and it's like, oh well, those were bad guys you killed, but I don't know if your end goal is actually a good thing or not. Um, he's very similar to Batman. He talks about he trained with the greatest criminals in the world and mobs, the biggest mob bosses and everything to get as good as he is at his job. So you see a lot of Batman-esque things. That's also cool because Jorge Jimenez is the artist on Batman
Right.
doing this. So you see very similar things to Batman, but way over the top. He's got swords, he's got guns, he's got everything. So this is really a setup book. You see him kind of doing a mission, and he references he has a plan. It's going to be the biggest thing that he's ever done. You don't find out what that is till the end, and I'm not even going to say it on here because I don't know if YouTube would like that. So you'll have to read to find out if you like that over the top violence, everything. I would say not quite as humorous as Kick Ass, but violence level very similar. Then you will like this. The art is beautiful. It is very entertaining, but not for the kids, not for the preteens, not for any of those unless you're old enough. So here is the A cover. This is by Jimenez. There's also a black and white variant, which is kind of hard to tell the difference because there's still red on it. Then we have I believe this is the McNiven. This was your original artist on the series from years ago. Very Joker like.
Yeah, sure.
And then, speaking of, you're just talking about saga like, here is the Fiona Staples cover. Very cool to see Fiona Staples. Her take on this. There's one other cover. by Frank Quietly, but I'm not putting it on here because it's a little too over the top. So that gives you an idea. You'll like this book.
Okay, so I read Flash issue number 790. It is the first part of the 1 Minute War. This, of course, is by Flash writer Jeremy Adams with art by Roger Cruz. So, the first thing I will say is it has the first appearance of the major alien force that they'll be going up against called the Faction. You'll learn a little bit about the faction in this, not a lot though. There's definitely like sort of a leader guy, but he doesn't seem like he seems like middle management, you know. So we don't get a name on him or anything. But first appearance of the faction in Flash 790. They are aliens that take over worlds, and they have speedster powers. So they do it before worlds even realize it. Of course, our world has multiple speedsters, or the DC universe has multiple speedsters, and so as they land and they begin to do this, this catches you up on where they all are. You know, where is Wally West? Where is Barry Allen? Where is Kid Flash? Even characters we haven't seen in a while, like Max Mercury. You get a little catch up on where everybody is, and then you see the moment they realize, oh man, this speedster alien armada is trying to take over. We all have to go. So it's very much a setup. The aliens do something. Basically, they do a move called deploy the wall, and you'll have to read the issue to see what that means and what it does. But I will say, by the end of this issue, one major superhero's significant other is gravely injured, which is probably going to anger them very much going forward. So it's like all the issues of Flash, it's just a good read too. I say they catch you up on where they all are. Each of those scenes are full scenes,
Entertaining in themselves.
yes, in themselves. So that's what's going on at the beginning of 1 Minute War. And this is a new arc. So if you've heard us talk good about Flash and you haven't been reading or you fell off, this is a good one to come back in on. And as far as variants, we have two. We have the Mustafa variant, and then we have. Well, I'm sorry, this is not a variant. I wanted to mention also out this week is a facsimile, Flash issue number 123, the first time the Silver Age and Golden Age Flash met.
Kind of the first, considered the first like multiverse book.
Yes, yep, that is correct. So this facsimile is also out this week.
Okay, next up for me is Wildcats number 3. So I just want to talk about this because I have really been enjoying Wildcats. There has been multiple attempts over the years to relaunch Wildcats. You even have something like Grant Morrison's Wildcats that lasted one issue. So it is really nice that even this Wildcats is to number 3. But I think even after all the multiple attempts and since DC got the license, they've been trying how do you work these Wildstorm characters into the DC universe. I think this has been done the best so far with this new Wildcats team. So in this, we saw in the last one that the new version of the Seven Soldiers of Victory were revealed. So the old version of Seven Soldiers of Victory, where it was a Grant Morrison book, it involved like Frankenstein and Shining Knight. This is a new one, and they explain in this one essentially you have the Wildcats who are made up of characters like Grifter, who aren't necessarily the most PR friendly people. So they introduced the Seven Soldiers of Victory to basically take responsibility for every good thing that the Wildcats do, but they're a better public image for this group called Halo. So, but doing so, the Seven Soldiers are a reintroduction of some classic Wildstorm characters. So we have characters like Threshold, Majestic, uh, Andromac, if I'm not as familiar with Maul, who you may know, Mother One. There's a character called Agent Wax and Pike. And it's just fun to see some characters that I'm not super familiar with, but characters like Majestic, I know a bit more about, come in here and they're a little bit more shiny, a little bit uh, uh, more pleasing for the public to see. But there is a mission that Grifter has to go on in this that is a lot of fun. It involves some Gen 13 characters. No first appearances in this, but if you're a fan of those Wildstorm characters, I'm glad they're kind of rolling them out pretty
The
fast.
early image days live on.
Yes, and all together in one. So if you enjoy all that, I definitely recommend picking up Wildcats because you're going to see probably not too long. Most of the Wildstorm characters have some uh, part to play in this. So this is our A cover. See, Majestic, and I think later he becomes like Mr. Majestic. And we also have this variant by Zerdy that is pretty awesome as well. It's kind of a mashup where the Wildstorm characters are wearing some DC characters t-shirts.
Yeah, it's nice. Just more signaling like we're here,
Yeah.
we're in the DC. We couldn't be wearing these before. Okay, so I read Mary Jane and Black Cat #2. So this is a new miniseries, which at least part of it is set in Dark Web. I'm not sure if they'll be in Dark Web through the whole series. Maybe they will. But anyway, this issue #2. So in issue #1, they ended up in limbo, and they found they had been called there by a demon for a certain purpose. He wanted to hire Black Cat to steal something for him, but this is in limbo. So this issue, you learn he is after a soul sword. This is his own soul sword that was taken away a long time ago, and he thinks if he gets it, he can be the controller of limbo. And so he hires Black Cat with Mary Jane, who's tagging along with her very wonky powers. Her powers are sort of like lottery determines if they're good or not every time she tries to use them. We learn more about how that works too. You learn what some of the symbols that appear when she uses her power. For one thing, you learn that a skull, if she gets one skull, that means her power is going to suck. But if she gets two skulls, it's going to be really bad, and she's really worried what three skulls could mean. So you get to see Mary Jane use a few more powers. Last issue, she got one skull, and she had the powers over pudding, which was very funny, which, is in contrast to really good powers that she can get too.
Yeah.
So the two of them are going to have to travel this tower to get this soul stored back so that this demon can take over hell and send them back. Now, why does this demon think that they can even do this? Why does he think they're his ace in the hole, other than that Black Cat's awesome and, always wins? It's because he says that his secret weapon is that they are Earth girls. He says that in his opinion, Limbo always ends up being ruled or something happens major. It's always Earth girls. I thought that was funny. That's some of that good Jed McKay
Ileana
writing.
and Goblin Queen and
Yeah,
all the yeah.
yeah, that's some of that good Jed McKay writing. And speaking of which, this is the art is done by Vincenzo Caratu. So just another delightful issue of Mary Jane and Black Cat. The Limbo stuff wasn't as weird. You know what I mean? Like I said,
Yeah.
mine was more, sort of normal. Also, they're not the only ones after the sword they learn. And so there's actually a lot more characters who are they're going to have to vie with and fight over it with.
Is there any hint to how Mary Jane got her powers?
No,
That's
not in this issue.
that's interesting.
So, but there's a lot of secrets going on because Black Cat still is trying to get up the courage to tell Mary Jane that her and Peter have a relationship going. All right, so as far as our variants, we have the Aka variant, and then we have the very strange Adam Hughes demonized variant. Trying to get it with the least
So
amount of
pretty
glare.
girls on that. That is
There we
one
go.
scary, like found footage, like
Yeah.
final scene from a found footage movie.
Seriously.
Okay, next up, I've got our intro into the High Republic this time. So this week we have High Republic #4. And so that character on the cover is Worth. And he is this is a first appearance of him. So if you're reading the books, this arc takes place 150 years before the previous one. We're learning more about the galaxy at this point and how we get to the stuff we've seen in High Republic, like the Nile and Marchion Row and everything. Well, uh, this takes place, I believe, after the current novel that's out. Uh, Before there's an audio drama called the Battle of Jeddah, and it takes place there. And what's interesting about it is you always think of, oh, the Jedi are the ones with the Force. There's actually a bunch of people who interpret the Force different ways, almost to different denominations. and how they see the Force and how it should be used. This is Worth is your representative of a group called the Path of the Open Hand, and they believe you shouldn't use the Force. That by using it, you're corrupting it, and bad things are going to happen. So we are going to see how they potentially become what the Nile are later. That's kind of what they've hinted at. He is a big character in the book, so that's why one of the key things why I wanted to mention him. The other thing is he comes in with a young blue girl, and from reading the books, I know that this is Marta Rowe, a descendant or an ancestor of
Ancestor.
Marchion Rowe. She is a pretty big part in the Path of Deceit young adult novel. So they don't even say her name. I was like, they have to say it somewhere in here. Nope, she comes in. She's got scars on her hands and stuff. You realize that's actually from the book. So I always think when there's multiple points of contact for a character, that's a good sign that that's a pretty good first appearance for a Star Wars book. They've been in a novel, now they're in a comic. So this is a character that's got some bases that's going to be through quite a few of these books and comics. So that is issue number 4. We also have the Bengal variant. The other one I want to show is, let's see, this is Star Wars High Republic Adventures number 2. So this is our more all ages, fun one. Even though it's all ages in this mostly means it just focuses on a younger character. But this is our Jedi Sav Maligan, who has doesn't like her life with the Jedi, so she wants adventure. She takes up with Maz Kanata and her pirates. And in this issue, we've got our last issue was the first appearance of a lot of the pirates and Maz Kanata's crew. Well, in this there are other like rival pirates, and that is first appearance. They're called the Dank Grax, and you have the first appearance of Arkic Vaughn, who's a Geonosian pirate. We have Byrn, which is Drrn. We have Saya Keem and Lavalox Verzin. Verzin. So there are a couple of first appearances in here, some really cool character designs. They each get a panel showing their name and kind of a little bit about them. So another fun issue if you like the more action-packed pirates and smugglers and all that in Star Wars. There is that one, and just the one cover.
All right, so I read Something's Killing the Children, issue number 28. I am happy to report that Erica and Cutter actually meet in this issue finally. Cutter, who's seems like she's been after Erica for like 8 issues now, they finally end up in the same place. So the issue it starts with where we ended up last issue, which is Erica and Gabby's sort of guardian Ricky. They're all in the car. They're leaving. Erica's like, we got to get out or we got to get help. Well, where do they go? They go to the police officer Carter. That Officer Carter we met a lot of issues ago. He's been in the series for a little bit. They try to get help from Carter, but will he help them? Because let's remember that Carter already got to Carter and convinced him that Erica is evil. So you'll have to see how that plays out. But what I can tell you is Cutter and Erica have their first meeting, and it's not just like they see each other and walk away. It's not that simple. Cutter sort of has the upper hand. Now, will she just simply kill Erica or fight with Erica? No, she has something even worse in mind. And you'll have to read it to find out what that is. So glad to see some forward progression with the new villain that Cutter is in Something's Killing the Children. And then as far as the variants, we have the the gist variant. Then we have there's a 1 in 25 of that one, a virgin version of it. We're selling to our customers for $25. There's a 1 in 50 variant we are selling for $50, which this was the Ward. Yeah, this is the Christian Ward variant. And lastly, there's a 1 per store version of the Deladera main cover that we're selling for $20.
Next up for me is a interesting thing that they're doing. This is Spawn Unwanted Violence #1. This is a 2-issue series. You don't really see that too much because a lot of stuff is written for trade. So it's
Yeah,
like 6 issues, 12 issues,
you're
5
right.
issues.
How and when, where will they collect it?
Yeah, so it is oversized, so they can probably get away with a thin trade if they do that.
Right. Yeah, it's a
Um,
9.99
but this
trade.
is, I feel like the big point of this. It's written by McFarlane. The art is by Mike Del Mundo. That's him doing the cover there. If you're familiar with his very unique style, he's an artist. His stuff is very experimental, painterly, sometimes abstract, but very cool. It works really well for the Spawn universe. Now, this one I would describe as if you like King Spawn, which is kind of on the darker side of the Spawn universe, you'll like this one. It involves like human trafficking. It involves Spawn trying to find out information about something, and he needs the help of one of his. I wouldn't even say a friend. Spawn doesn't have friends, but kind of one of his um, people in his circle called the Freak. Freak is an old Spawn character, very twisted, very demented character. Spawn doesn't necessarily want to go to him for it, but he's really good at getting information out of people, and so Spawn needs to use him to get some information, and he may have, by doing so, sent the Freak on a little out of control. He may go a little bit further than even Spawn is comfortable with. So that's part of this. The other part, this is a pretty political book. Spawn sometimes dabbles in that, mostly in King Spawn. This isn't quite as much of like the giant demons and gorilla cyborgs and everything. This is more human drama about crime, about who's innocent, who's guilty, all of that kind of thing. Where Spawn kind of has to decide, um, how far is too far, all that kind of stuff. So if you like that, if you like the little bit more funny to say grounded Spawn, less whimsical, you'll like this. So we've got the A cover for this, and funny enough, the B cover is the Virgin version of it.
Okay, so next up, I read Danger Street issue #2. This is by Tom King, with his artists he likes to use, King and Fornes doing this. So right on the cover, we have somebody in a casket. This, of course, happened at the end of last issue. This is one of the kids from last issue who was accidentally killed at the scene where Starman and Warlord and them tried to summon Darkseid to defeat him. So this poor kid got killed by accident. His nickname was Good Looks. His friends have very strange nicknames. So this issue is the fallout after that, and I will say Darkseid does make an appearance in this issue, which is pretty cool. But past that, it is just a lot of ongoing plot to do with the fallout of what happened. A lot more with Warlord and Starman. You also get back to Lady Cop. Creeper's in it, Manhunter's in it. So I mean, Tom King's writing this, so there's like 99 things that are going on. But that's generally what's happening in it. So that's what's happening in Danger Street #2. And as far as the variant, here is the Johnson variant for that issue.
Next up for me, I've got Batman and Joker Deadly Duo #3. So another cool issue by Mark Silvestri. Not a whole lot to say here. It does just further the plot. Um, you've got Batman still, he's just started his team up with the Joker. He's not too happy about it. He's got some hard and fast rules for the Joker. You see, Joker's got that mask on. That does play a part in here. That is pretty interesting. So just wanted to show this one off, and the variants for this, which are, as always with the series, very weird, very scary. We have the Alexander variant, so there's the Joker one. Just See how long you can stare at that without getting cold chills. And we have also in the same way this Batman, who not a very pleasant looking Batman.
Intense, man.
Very intense, the gritted teeth.
All right, so I read Miles Morales Spider-Man #2. This is second issue from the new creative team of Cody Ziegler with art by Federico Vincentini. And in this issue, Miles, he's just got more problems than ever. He even comments it on himself. He's like, I feel like I've upgraded a lot in the superhero way, but my problems upgrade along with them. He's got problems at school, he's got problems at home, and now he's even got problems with his girlfriend Starling in this issue. Past that, somebody is upgrading villains and sending them his way. Last issue he fought a villain, and then after that he fought Scorpion, who was way upgraded. Well, Scorpion is back. There's also an appearance by Misty Knight. So having Misty Knight and Miles hang out is for the first time pretty much was really interesting. They have a really good conversation. That was one of my favorite parts of this actually. But past that, there is also more of the new villain that we met in issue #1, Raneem. She seems to go to Miles' school. She knows his secret identity. That was all revealed in issue 1. We don't know why she hates him so much, but in this issue, we get to see her in her full-on armor. And apparently, her villain name it's been like stated in solicitations and such. I don't think we get it in the issue, but her villain name is Rabble. And so we get to see her in the Rabble armor fighting Miles and fighting Misty Knight. So a lot going on in Miles Morales Spider-Man #2. Then the variants, we've got the Baldari variant. Very colorful.
Yeah.
I just kind of like looking at that one.
Looks like the Into the Spider-Verse type
Yeah,
style.
yeah, for sure. Here is the Han homage variant. Miles taking the throne from Spider-Man #1, 1990 series. And then there's a 1 in 10 Vincentini design variant. See, that's the sort of the Rabble costume for $15 is what we're selling this one for. Name down the bottom left and everything.
Okay. Next up, I've got Ghost Rider #10. So you see that cover, you've got Ghost Rider facing off with Exhaust, and this kind of happens in this issue. Now, this is a very weird issue in the fact that they really, no pun intended, hit the gas on it. And uh, basically, this storyline that's been going on for the past quite a few issues uh, gets tied up in a bow at the end of this one. So much so that like halfway through it, I was like, "Is this the last issue of this Ghost Rider?" No, it has a to be continued. The next issue, all of that, but they really a lot gets resolved
Yeah.
in this issue. So very cool. Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze. The spirit of vengeance is a thing in of itself. It's not like Johnny Blaze and the Spirit of Vengeance that's like him putting on a costume. No, it's a spirit within him, and they don't always get along. Well, finally, the two kind of come to a simpatico relationship where Johnny Blaze isn't controlling Ghost Rider, but he's finally able to observe what he's doing as Ghost Rider, which has kind of been a thing through this series. He's been kind of waking up like old school Hulk and Bruce Banner, not knowing where have I been, what kind of chaos what haven't I done. They finally work together, and you get a upgraded version of Ghost Rider when this happens. His suit changes a little bit. He's now wielding a chainsaw that he keeps on a chain, so he can whip it around. Does not seem very practical, but he makes it work. Uh, but he goes up against Exhaust, who has taken Talia Warroad kind of uh, hostage, but she looks real rough. She almost looks like she's lost a lot of like life force or whatever. But that you don't really see the fight between Ghost Rider and Exhaust. You hopefully will get glimpses of it later, but you've got basically this moment right here where they come at each other, and then the scene cuts and we go somewhere else. So we assume they have a really cool fight. We don't necessarily see it. I hope we get to see it at some point. But the stuff with Exhaust in this is really cool. The other thing that's been going on is Blackheart has been a villain kind of in the background of this. That story also gets tied up in this, which I thought was interesting because he hasn't been in it a ton, just kind of in a couple of pages here and there. But this does, even though it feels like it's wrapping stuff up, there's kind of a nice moment between some characters. There is a what would be the equivalent of an after the credits scene where something is going on with another Ghost Rider. Fan favorite Ghost Rider is shown at the end, and we're gonna have to see what happens with him. But still, a really great issue of Ghost Rider. It just felt like they put the pedal to the metal, and we blew through the rest of the storyline. Definitely still worth reading. Still really fun. There's our A cover. We have our Notion variant with Exhaust and his motorcycle. And we have this really awesome homage cover by Phil Noto.
Okay, so I read Grimm issue number 7. This, of course, is the indie series by Stephanie Phillip with interior art by Flaviano. In this issue, our main character Jessica learns that due to the events that have been going on in the previous books, which link to her, something's happened where nobody on Earth can die anymore. And so we, the reader, get to find out about this because we follow a priest. He's a priest in a hospital. Right as he starts to learn that nobody can die, what a terrible place to be! Because here you have people who should be dying, many of them in extreme pain, and they can't die, and some of them want to die. So this is very much like a horror issue, and so you get to see some very horrific situations on what this does to a small section of our entire planet as people cannot die anymore.
Mm.
And the priest runs into Jessica. They have a talk about this, sort of. And it's just a really messed up situation. It does not get resolved, this issue. But there is a new character who's introduced at the end. He isn't named, but he's a very colorful character. He is a tiger that attacks people. All I can say about that is, how Las Vegas? Because I mean, this series is kind of set in Las Vegas, the Earth parts of it. So very Las Vegas, person with a tiger who attacks people. So that's what's going on. Another issue of Grimm. Here is the variants. We have the Florentino variant with one of Jessica's main 2 allies, the Rocker. And here is the same one, but it's a 1 in 10 recolored one that is for $10.
I like how they chose just the pants.
Yep.
Okay, next up for me, I've got Darth Vader number 30. And this is a really cool issue. We saw in the last one that some of the handmaidens, not Sabe, but the other ones were, when you all look the same, you can do that classic twins, Freaky
Switcheroos.
Friday,
Yeah.
yeah, the twins.
Tag them out.
Yeah, but they've been trying to get to Vader because they don't like what he's been doing to Sabe and kind of bringing her into the Empire. But of course, you can't pull anything over on Vader. He knows this is going on, and we saw that Sabe was actually on the mission to take out. Can't remember what his first name is. Tambor. He's the son of Wat Tambor, who's from the prequels. But we still don't quite know where Sabe's allegiance lie. She has definitely got darker since being around Vader. I don't think you can help but kind of fuel you that way. But maybe there's still enough good in her that she can use her position to help others. It's a very strained thing she's going through, but we have a big fight like you see on the cover with the handmaidens finally going 1-on-1, or I guess 5-on-1, or however many there are, with Vader. Of course, it doesn't go great. They're very well trained, but he's Vader.
Yeah.
But what changes from the big fight, just in a couple of pages of all of them fighting Vader, to them agreeing to team up with Vader?
Hmm.
What happens? What does he say? Or what happens elsewhere that they realize it might be better working with him. So very cool issue of Darth Vader number 30. Kind of a hardcover to see, but very cool in person. We've got some variants for this. We've got the Phil Noto variant. We've got the handmaidens on there, Padme in the background, and we have the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary cover. This is part one of these, so they number these. Uh, this is one of 40. So if you're going to try and get all of these kind of like key moments covers, this is where you start. You got a long road ahead of you. I know people though who have all of them.
And God bless whoever put the numbering on there.
Yes.
Oh man, that's so nice.
But it does bounce around between series. It's not just Vader. Star Wars, it's Afra, it's all of those.
Which needs the numbering even more.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so I read Moon Knight issue number 19. What can I say? Another great issue of Moon Knight. So this is a new story arc. The last issue, it had it where the other Fist of Khonshu, Hunter's Moon, was killed by some of the assassins of Stature, the vampire organization. But by the end of the issue, he came back because, you know, that's what Moon Knights do. Well, in this issue, him and Moon Knight have a long discussion on can they die or can't they die, and they disagree about this. It's actually a really interesting discussion, and I didn't see where it was going because Jen McKay's a cool writer. By the end, something's revealed to Moon Knight that sort of changes his power set a little bit. It kind of really weakens him in a way, but in an interesting way. So the other thing that's happening in this issue, the B plot, you know, a lot of Jed McKay stuff has A and B plot, but he does it really well. The B plot is Zodiac is being sort of psychologically interrogated. You know, this person seems like a psychiatrist, but you kind of get the sense he's working for Moon Knight. And in fact, he is an old Moon Knight ally. So what will he get out of Zodiac? Who will win in this sort of just battle of wits? You'll have to read to see. So I don't feel I have to really sell Moon Knight. It's,
No.
every issue is really good. So that was going on issue 19. And then as far as the variants, we have the Philip Pan variant and the Nakayama incentive variant. I'm sorry, homage variant.
We've got a lot of words in the comic book world.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get.
It's definitely the homage.
But it's cool at the bottom of that one that it's instead of like his other versions, it's some of the
it's some of the new characters from this
yes
series.
Okay, next up I've got Daredevil number 7. So not a whole lot to say about this except for you see that shadow in the background of Punisher. That is
They're gonna collide.
Yes, we are finally right at the moment where by the end of this you have Punisher basically outside of Daredevil's fortress. So we are about one issue away from the big crossover event of Daredevil versus Punisher. They've done a great job leading up to it. You can really feel that kind of drums of war. The characters training and preparing, knowing that they're about to face off against Punisher. So another cool issue of Daredevil, and I love these homage covers they've been doing, and this one is awesome because this is the Frank Cho variant. Of course, a homage to the death of Elektra, but this time she's wearing the Daredevil suit. Like she's gonna have a better time against Bullseye this time.
Okay, so I read Black Panther 13. Oops, I picked up Carnage. I read Black Panther issue 13. Yeah, this is another series I've really been enjoying. I liked a lot more than I thought I would. A lot of messed up things in this series. Anyhow, it has been revealed as of last issue that Jahai, Black T'Challa's old friend who was thought to have been murdered, actually faked his own death, and he's been the one behind all of T'Challa's troubles this whole time. I mean, and it goes worse than that. I mean, he's really trying to take over the planet. Like he's put the Avengers against T'Challa. He's got him dethroned. He did it all for him. Well, you know that T'Challa does not agree at all. So in this issue, T'Challa has gathered his allies, and they're headed to intercept Jahai and his forces. But guess what? The Avengers and Cap try to stop them because Cap had warned him Very clearly, he said, "Stand down. Let us handle this." It's another standoff between the Avengers and Black Panther and his crew. And I'll tell you, man, poor T'Challa, the last few issues, he has got punched in the face a lot. He gets punched in the face some more in this issue. I feel so bad for him. But I will say, by the end, a surprise ally rises up who has decided that he is going to help him, whether it's against the Avengers or Jahai. So I'm just on the edge of my seat waiting to see how this pans out in the next issue. So as far as variants, we have the Medina variant,
Very cool.
and we have the Mercado variant.
Being in a superhero universe is terrible because anybody who was your friend growing up or anybody you knew is either going to die, become a super villain, and
Yeah.
also get powers at some point,
Yep.
and you just got to come to terms with that. And last for me, we've got Mandalorian number 7. So this is based off the episode The Reckoning, which we're almost to the finale. Number 8 was our last episode and will be our last issue. But what is key about this one? This is another first appearance. This is the first appearance of Moff Gideon, the big bad in the Mandoverse. So this is a big first appearance. He appears as a hologram and then actually in person at the end. So if you're looking for your Star Wars first appearances, he is a big character and will be presumably for quite a while. They've really made him a formidable character against Mando and friends. So definitely, if you're looking for our first appearance, this is a good one. And this is a great episode, great issue. We also have the concept art cover. And we have the 1 in 25 Sway variant that we're selling to our customers for $25.
So my last issue to go over is Carnage number 9. This, of course, is by Ram V with art by Francesco Manna. So this is more of Carnage trying to become a god. He's been slowly rolling out his plan. They love the Carnage series where he slowly rolls out his plan, but honestly, it's kind of fun because his plans tend to be pretty good. So in this one, he is still in the land of the gods. He goes to where Thor's hammer was forged, and he tries to convince a master craftsman to make him the deadliest weapon that's ever been made. Now, this weapon has been made before. This is actually a very, very famous sword. That's as far as I'll go with it. Well, Carnage is going to try to convince this person to do it. Will he be able to? And if so, will he add to it and change it? You'll just have to see. But his plans are lofty. I mean,
Will
bear
he
in
pay
mind,
for it too? I mean,
I don't know. He's pretty crafty in this. He has been lining things up in his favor, and I'll say, his goal is to become as powerful as a god, and he's nipping at the heels of it at this point.
this is going to be crazy to see where this goes. We know we've got the Summer of the Symbiotes coming up. I think is one of the big events. How that doesn't involve Carnage's current plans.
If he doesn't get stopped real quick.
Yeah.
So here is the Sakara and Rosenberg variant for that series. And that is it. That is all 23 comics we're going through. We counted our first. I think it was like 17 different ones throughout different books. So thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future shows. We really only do 2. We do this one where we go over the new comics, and we do Comics from the Future every Friday, which is where we go over the comics that are available to order.
Yes.
So good information shows. I know they're long, but there's a lot of comics out there.
Yes, I'm glad we finally got back to having a full week with a lot of stuff to talk about.
Me too. So anyway, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.